Success is goals. Success is all about setting goals. Everything else is just commentary. If you can learn to set goals effectively and work towards them consistently, it will bring you more success than anything else. Even more than all the education and schooling you could ever get. Now, the subject of goals is a big subject. It's so important, but they don't teach it in any of our schools. You can spend many years in school, even more than a decade, and still not learn what I consider the most important skill for success. If you look at successful people, if you study their lives closely, you'll notice something interesting. Most of them lived average lives for a long time. Then suddenly they found a goal, a mission, a purpose. There was something specific they wanted to achieve, and they were very clear about it. They wrote it down and worked towards it. When someone has a clear goal or mission, they can achieve a lot more in just 1 or 2 years than what an average person might achieve in 5 or even 10 years. This applies to everyone who succeeds, no matter their background or circumstances. I've seen this in people from all walks of life, from those at the top of society to those at the bottom, whether they've had a lot of education or not much at all, whether they're super smart or not particularly bright. I've personally met multimillionaires who've completed university, dropped out, or didn't even finish high school. But they all had one thing in common: they had clear goals. They knew what they wanted to achieve, and that drove them forward. Now, world-class people have a much bigger vision of what is possible for them. Let me tell you about a technique that I learned a long time ago from an expert. It's called X to 10X. What that means is you imagine going from X, which is your current income or level of success, to 10 times that amount. Now, when you first hear this idea, you might think, that's impossible. There's no way I could increase my income tenfold. It's just too far-fetched. Imagine I'm speaking to a group of people and I ask them, do you think there's even a slight possibility that you could increase your income by 10 times during your lifetime? Most people might say, well, maybe there's like 1 chance in 1,000. Then I'll ask them, how many of you here, from the time you started working until now, have already doubled your income? Almost everyone raises their hand. Then I ask about tripling it, and still, most hands are up. Even quadrupling, many hands remain raised. So I tell them, you've already doubled or tripled your income once. All you need to do now is keep doing the same things you did to achieve that, and you can double or triple it again and again. Eventually, you'll have increased your income by 10 times. The truth is, there are people all around the world who are earning 10 times more than you. Most of us tend to think narrowly about our income. We get used to earning a certain amount of money and then adjust our lives to fit within that income. We choose where to eat, what to buy, where to live, and what kind of car to drive based on what we currently earn. But successful people think differently. They create a vision for themselves. They don't just accept their current circumstances, they imagine bigger possibilities for their future. Peter Drucker, a famous management expert, once said that if you do not have a vision to be a world leader, when you start your business on your kitchen table, you'll probably never be very successful. Imagine you're starting your business right at your kitchen table. Now, here's something to think about. What if you could become a leader in your field, known all around the world? It might seem like a big leap from where you are now. But ask yourself, if I were the world leader in my field, how would I be different from where I am today? How would my company be different? Think about Steve Jobs and Apple Computer. They started out in a garage with a simple idea to create a small Apple computer that people could use at home. Then there's Bill Gates of Microsoft. He had this vision that if they could make computers easy to use, everyone could have one on their desk. You probably heard of his goal: a personal computer on every desk in the world. Now, when Bill Gates talked about this idea back in the late 70s, many people thought he was crazy. The bigwigs at IBM even said there was no need for anyone to have a computer at home. But within just a few years, things changed dramatically. Everyone suddenly wanted a personal computer, and IBM found himself struggling to keep up with the demand. Nowadays, having a computer is pretty much essential. Now, your smartphone is basically a mini computer. If you have an iPad or a computer at home, you've got access to technology all around you. Now imagine your business or even yourself being recognized as world-class. What would that look like? How would things be different from where you are right now? Here's a thought-provoking question for you. What do you really want from your life? Picture this if you had no limits whatsoever, no restrictions on money, time, or talent. What would you dream of achieving or becoming? Take a moment to jot down your thoughts. Write down all those big dreams and aspirations. Here's a helpful exercise I suggest. Make a list of 10 things, 10 goals that you'd like to achieve in the next year or so. Then ask yourself this important question. If you could only accomplish one goal from this list, which one would have the biggest positive impact on your life? Think about it deeply. If you could only achieve one thing in your life, which goal would truly make a significant difference in your life? For many people, especially as they progress in their careers or as they grow older, the biggest goal tends to be related to money. With money, you can afford to buy a house, a car, support your family, and so on. It's a common desire. However, for others, the most important goal might be related to health, or perhaps it's a business goal if you're an entrepreneur. And for those struggling with relationship issues, improving relationships might be the top priority. It really depends on each individual's circumstances and what matters most to them. Imagine if you could achieve just one goal or solve one problem in your life. And remember, a problem unsolved is merely a goal unachieved. So which one would you choose? Take a moment to write it down. This goal or problem you've identified should become the main purpose of your life. Make it the central focus, the guiding force that directs your actions and decisions. Now tell yourself this every day. I can do it. I can do it. You see, the very fact that you can think of a goal means it's somewhere within you or around you. There's the potential to make it happen. It's like a hidden ability waiting to be unleashed. Here's the interesting part. In life, you can't conceive of a big goal without also having the capability to achieve it. So if you can imagine it, it's likely within your reach. Trust in yourself and your potential to turn that goal into reality. It's important to realize that there's a powerful force in the universe working to provide you with the ideas and opportunities you need to achieve your goals. So, let's say your goal is to increase your income. I often ask people if they want to double their income in the next 2 to 3 years. And most people say yes. It's definitely a reasonable goal, and many people in the room will likely achieve it. Now, the question becomes, how do you make it happen? One way is to increase your productivity is to become more valuable. Your income is directly tied to the value you bring to the marketplace, which they're willing to pay for. So if you can increase your productivity, you can increase your income. Now imagine if you could increase your productivity just by a tiny amount each day. For example, could you be just 1/1000th more productive in a single day? Most people would say, yes, it's definitely doable. In fact, you could probably even double your productivity if you focused solely on your most important task for the day. But let's keep it simple and aim for just 1/1000th improvement. Now, could you keep up this slight increase in productivity for the next few days? Absolutely. What about for a whole week? That would amount to a 0.5% improvement. Seems manageable, right? Now, let's extend this over a month, which consists of about 4 weeks. If you maintain this small increase in productivity consistently over a month, you'd end up being 2% more productive by the end of the month. Can you keep this up for a whole year? There are about 13 4-week periods in a year, totaling 52 weeks. So, if you manage to sustain this gradual improvement over an entire year, you'd be 26% more productive by the end. Now, ask yourself, could you do this? Could you commit to improving your productivity by just a tiny fraction each day, knowing that it could lead to such significant growth over time? Most likely. The answer is yes. And as you get into the rhythm of better productivity, it becomes easier and easier. Imagine if you could maintain this gradual increase in productivity not just for a year, but for a whole decade, 10 years in a row. Now, if you were to improve your productivity by just 26% each year, and that improvement compounds over 10 years, do you know what happened? By the end of the 10 years, your productivity would skyrocket by over 1,004%. That's a massive leap. Now think about the implications of such a significant increase in productivity. It wouldn't just affect your performance and output. It would also tremendously impact your results. And yes, you guessed it, right? Your income would also increase tenfold over the course of those 10 years. Imagine the value you would bring to the marketplace after such consistent growth. Employers would be lining up at your door, eager to hire you, and willing to pay you 10 times more than what you're earning today. Why? Because you'd be incredibly valuable and highly productive. Now, this kind of monumental success doesn't happen overnight. It's not a sudden leap that gets splashed across the headlines. Instead, it's the result of steady, consistent progress over time. And the best part? This is something that everyone can achieve if they're willing to put in the effort and stay committed to their goals. But the people who are doing really well did it incrementally. It's not usually a sudden big leap. Instead, it happens gradually, step by step. There's something called the law of incremental improvement, or the law of accumulation, which basically means that every big success is actually the result of many small efforts that add up over time. These efforts are like tiny snowflakes that come together to form a big snowball. You see, over the years, successful people become more and more productive. They keep building on their efforts, little by little. And as they do, they start to generate more ideas and opportunities. These ideas might come from reading articles, having conversations, or just from their own thoughts. Sometimes all it takes is one idea to completely change the course of their lives. But here's the thing, you never know when or where that idea will come from. So the key is to expose yourself to as many ideas as possible. Keep your mind open and curious, and trust that the right idea will come to you at the right time. And you know what? It always does. As long as you stay receptive to new ideas, keep seeking them out. When I was 25 years old and just learning about the power of goals. Back then, I'd never really heard much about setting goals. Then I stumbled upon some basic education that said, if you have a goal, you should write it down. Set a deadline for achieving it, make it measurable, create a plan, and then get to work. So I grabbed a scrap piece of paper and wrote down a couple of goals. It didn't cost me anything. Just a few minutes of my time. I set deadlines, made plans, and then I got busy trying to make them happen. But here's the interesting part. I ended up losing that piece of paper with my goals on it. I didn't think much of it until about a month later when I realized something incredible. I'd actually achieved everything I had written down, even though I didn't have a copy of the list anymore. The goals I had set seemed almost ridiculous at the time, but somehow, just the act of setting them in motion seemed to trigger a chain reaction. It's like setting goals activated different parts of my mind, both my subconscious and superconscious minds. It also seemed to set in motion what some people call the law of attraction, where people and circumstances seem to be drawn to you to help you achieve your goals. It's truly fascinating how setting goals can change everything about you. If someone comes to ask me how to increase my income,